Hello everyone, sorry, let me turn the air off for a little bit. This is part 2. Apologize. What did I just say? Apologize. Oh, the solar companies drive me crazy. Okay. I got some food, some dinner. So I might be sneaking off to take little nibbles of my pizza. Apologies. But let's get into the video. This was, by the way, a request. I think I already said that. I don't know. It's been a flustering day, so this is part 2.
Priorities. And Allah Azza wa Jal informed our Prophet ﷺ that the priority is for those who accept the message, who want to listen to it, and not because of nobility of blood. So this is Al-Waleed, the father of Khalid, the one for whom Abasa wa Tawalla was revealed because of. So Khalid ibn al-Waleed, of course, grew up in the lap of luxury because this is his father. Allah says we gave him plenty of money. And Al-Waleed died before the battle of Badr. He did not participate in the battle of Badr. And so Khalid himself was also not present in the battle of Badr. It is said that he was traveling somewhere else to do business, so he did not participate. But his older brother did participate in the battle of Badr. And his older brother was taken captive and taken to Medina and ran.
This is Khalid's older brother we're talking about, right?
Ransoms were sent out, that there's a ransom for such and such. And the highest ransom for all of the people, in the mercy of our Prophet ﷺ, he didn't assign one figure to all the people. If you were poor, you had a lower ransom. If you were rich, you had a higher ransom. And of course, the Prophet ﷺ knew each and every household personally. So he assigned a figure depending on how much money the family had. Well, when he has the son of Al-Waleed ibn al-Mughira, he assigned the highest figure out of all of the captives. And that shows us who is Al-Waleed ibn al-Mughira. That the highest ransom was for one group of people, amongst them was this son, Khalid's older brother. So he was given a ransom of 4,000 dinars. That's a massive amount of money. 4,000 dinars. So Khalid himself came to Medina with the bag of money. Khalid himself came to Medina and he handed the money to the Prophet ﷺ. He took his brother. Now his brother has been a captive in Medina for around 3 weeks. He's been a captive for around 3 weeks in Medina. And you know, in Medina they didn't have any jails. Jails is not something that was invented by the Prophet ﷺ. It's a very cruel and unusual punishment in its own way. Jails were not invented. There were no jails. So what did the prisoners of war do? The Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba, every one of you should take one prisoner of war and house him as a guest in his house.
Wow.
So the prisoners of war were treated like guests. And so Khalid's older brother was a guest in the house of one of the Ansar for 3 weeks. We don't have any details of what he saw, but we can imagine the life that he must have lived, seen Islam. So as soon as the ransom was paid, Khalid took him and they started walking away. They spent the night outside of Medina. When Khalid woke up, his brother had disappeared. Because his brother walked back stealthily. He didn't want to embarrass Khalid because Khalid just paid 4,000. He didn't want to embrace Islam then because people would have accused him, you're not truly a Muslim. After the ransom was paid, he secretly went back to Medina and he accepted Islam and he became one of the main Sahaba. This is Khalid's older brother. So this is the first time that Islam entered the household of Al-Waleed ibn al-Mughira.
How mad was he though? Because he just paid the ransom to get his brother back and his brother sneaks off? I mean, in later years when he ends up converting, probably no harm, no foul. But in that moment, you got to think your brother had Stockholm syndrome. I'm sure that wasn't the term, but Stockholm syndrome is just when you have captives and you kind of have them for so long, you just brainwash them. I think it's what it is. You just brainwash them, and then over time they pretty much just kind of have given in, and they're now living in this I want to say world of delusion. That's a, when I say that, I'm not saying that the brother was living in delusion, but because the brother was clearly treated well compared to most people in a Stockholm situation where and they don't really, they weren't treated bad, so it's not really the same thing. But you understand what I'm trying to say. But how mad was he that he finds out his brother went back? He probably would go back, okay, if you're going to keep my brother, I want a refund. You know what? I gave you 4,000. I want 5,000. That's for 1,000. Just you take him. Now he can never come back. No takebacks. He's yours now. That kind of agreement.
Khalid went back even more angry, humiliated, frustrated. He's just spent 4,000 dinars of his inheritance trying to rescue his brother, and this is what his brother does to him? Yes. Leaves him after he's paid the money. I mean, you could have just accepted Islam and saved me the hassle of spending a fortune to get you out. But then people would have always doubted, why are you accepting Islam? Is it to get out of the ransom? So he allowed the ransom to be paid, and then he went back and he accepted Islam. So this...
Yeah. Oh, it's such a tricky thing, though. It's such a, quite the predicament. Because if you are a captive and you accept Islam, then yeah. And then let's say well, I mean, even if you did, they might still ransom you off. No, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. Would they have still ransomed them off? Oh, yeah, that's a tough
produced
one.
An amount of both hatred and curiosity, inquisitiveness. Why would my brother embrace this religion after he was a prisoner of war, after he was fighting him at Badr? So this created both a hatred, because he felt let down, and a curiosity and inquisitiveness. And therefore, in the Battle of Uhud, he decided to volunteer his services at a high level. In the Battle of Uhud, he wanted to do more than just be a foot soldier. And he was well known, again it's understood, we don't have to mention here, that Khalid had already established his reputation as a warrior. He's already established his reputation in the arts of war, in riding a horse, and the bow and arrow, in military genius. At this age, at this time of the incident, he's probably around 25 years old. 25 years old. Brothers and sisters who are 25 or older, what have we done? He's not even a Muslim now at this stage. But the elders of Mecca know his reputation.
When I was 25, I built the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Legos. So, I mean, I'm accomplished.
Wallahi, this shows what maturity is. That he spent his life in something that is useful for the community. He has a track record. And so when Abu Sufyan, who is now the new leader of Mecca, when Abu Sufyan says, we will gather an army, the likes of which Mecca has never seen, who's going to volunteer? 3,000 people volunteered. Abu Sufyan now has to choose leaders of every squadron. He takes leadership of the entire army, and then he chooses two main leaders. Firstly, Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl. Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, the Prophet called him the Fir'aun of my ummah. Abu Jahl is the Fir'aun of my ummah. Ikrimah was his son. So he chose Ikrimah as one of those two warriors. And the second, Khalid, the son of Waleed ibn al-Mughira. These are the sons of the main people of the Quraysh. They have blood, they have lineage, they have power, they have strength, they have bravery, they have skills. The two main leaders of the army were Ikrimah and Khalid. And you all know what happened in the Battle of Uhud. I don't need to reiterate it here. Suffice to say that even Ikrimah did not do what Khalid did. Even Ikrimah, who was older than him by at least 10 years and much more established, did not do what Khalid ibn al-Walid did. Khalid ibn al-Walid did the amazing thing of keeping his army intact, keeping his unit intact. You see the army is divided into squadrons, into units, right? When the Quraysh fled Uhud, you all know the story, that the Prophet was winning, and the Quraysh turned their backs and they fled. And his unit did not flee. He managed to keep his squadron intact. And while he's going back slowly, he's still monitoring the situation. He was the one who spotted what happened on the hill. This is Khalid ibn Waleed. Imagine you're running for your life, but his mind is abuzz. What can I do now? Is there any way? He sees the opportunity. He takes his small unit, his squadron, and he goes and he attacks from the back. You all know the story. And he attacks from the back. He himself charges up on that little mountain and he kills the 10 archers. Out of the 50, only 10 were left. He kills all of them. And then he leads his unit to hunt down the Prophet ﷺ, to try to kill him. I want you to understand this point. Khalid ibn al-Waleed, in the history of the Ummah, is the only leader who inflicted a damage and a loss upon the Prophet ﷺ and his contingent. The only leader, Khalid ibn al-Waleed. And he's trying to hunt down the Prophet ﷺ. He's sending squadrons here and there. 5 people go here, 10 people go there. Let's get rid of this once and for all. Nobody ever managed to inflict this type of loss on the Muslims. This is the military genius of Khalid ibn al-Waleed. And when the rumor spread that the Prophet ﷺ is dead, he said, no, it can't be him. I know it. He had this internal instinct, even though the rumor is spreading. And Abu Sufyan wanted to believe it. Isn't it true? And Khalid saying, no, it's not. I'm positive. This is military instinct. He has it in him that whoever was killed, it couldn't have been the Prophet ﷺ. He was killed alone. Who was killed was Mus'ab ibn Umair. And the Prophet ﷺ had gifted him his coat of armor before the battle. So Mus'ab died wearing the coat of armor of the Prophet ﷺ, and the guy who killed him assumed that it was the Prophet ﷺ. But Khalid knew better. Khalid knew that the Prophet ﷺ could never be by himself. So he already is thinking 10 steps ahead. And he's saying, no, we're not done yet. And to make a long story short, once again we have to move on, Khalid understood that the Prophet ﷺ had managed to escape this time, and he did not pursue him any further, and he let the matter go. And Abu Sufyan made the announcement that we're going to meet again the year after this. And then of course future events took their way. The point here before we move on, as I said, Khalid ibn al-Waleed is the only military commander to have achieved semi-success. It wasn't a full success, but to achieve some type of success against the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims, and yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eventually guided him to Islam. So it was in the Battle of Uhud where Khalid completely established his fame, where he basically was promoted to the ranks of a full, what we would call now a 4-star general, where he established his credentials in the Battle of Uhud. Similarly, in the Battle of the Trench, the only semi-successful attempt to kill a few Muslims, once again Khalid was behind it. Because the Battle of the Trench was a tactic that the Arabs had never seen before. They'd never seen a trench dug. They didn't know what to do. Once again, Khalid did a tactic. We don't have time to mention it now. But once again, thinking, as they say, outside the box. This is a new tactic. He's never seen it. He manages to think of a ploy, think of a plot where he calls some Muslims out, and then he attacked, and there was a little bit of a skirmish, but nothing major could be done. Was Khalid ibn al-Waleed even greater in military genius than the Prophet ﷺ? Of course not. We can never say this. And Allah Azza wa Jal wanted to prove that the military genius of the Prophet ﷺ could never be matched, even by Khalid. And this was proven in the incident and the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when literally there was no Abu Sufyan, there was no Khalid ibn al-Waleed was assigned the contingent. Khalid ibn al-Waleed was made the full commander. The Quraysh made him the full commander. Your job is to attack the Muslims coming for Umrah. Your job is to basically prevent them, do a little bit of fighting and let them run away. We're not going to allow them to come to Mecca. So Khalid ibn al-Waleed is now the full military commander. And the Prophet ﷺ, again, you all know the story. If you don't, then you need to read it up. He outwitted Khalid. He outsmarted Khalid, because Allah wanted to demonstrate that you can't beat the Prophet ﷺ in anything. And so the Prophet ﷺ outsmarted Khalid, and he was able to bypass the entire contingent. Basically, he fooled Khalid ibn al-Waleed. And Khalid ibn al-Waleed went somewhere else thinking the Prophet ﷺ was there, and the Prophet ﷺ made his way all the way to Hudaybiyah, and that's when the treaty was enacted. So nobody could beat the Prophet ﷺ in any matter, and especially in the matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with. It is clear that throughout this time, Khalid was battling between a hatred and an inquisition, as we said. Inquisitiveness. A hatred of the religion for having broken away the barriers of Mecca, for having caused an entire revolution. And he's also thinking, why are these people so successful? What is the loyalty? Why is my own brother fighting on that side? And it was with the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet ﷺ outwitted Khalid, that this had an impact on him, and it appears that he realized that there's a divine blessing that the Prophet ﷺ has. This is not human. What I did, Khalid was so sure that he would attack the Prophet ﷺ, that he would win over for the Quraysh. He was so sure that that loss, it gave him a sense of there must be a higher power working on the other side. Something is wrong. This is not possible. I'm the best warrior. I'm the best fighter. And so after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, he began thinking of converting to Islam. And he approached his closest friend, Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl, because they're both leaders, Abu Jahl and Waleed, so their sons grew up with a type of bond and friendship that nobody else...
Sorry. Question. What would have happened if Khalid went on his own to, kind of unannounced, maybe a white flag, and he had went there to talk to Muhammad, and just, you know, no weapons, he just wanted to talk to him? Would he have been... Would he have been killed? Or, you know, it would have been hard to trust him because you know who he is. But I would think that you could at least communicate with him. I would guess that his brother would probably speak up for him. You know, his brother would have probably been next to Muhammad, ready to jump in front of any kind of sword or anything. But would he have been able to, or did he? This might have been a terrible time to pause and ask this question, but could he have went on his own? Because I don't think Muhammad would have, you know, wanted him dead. He would have been fair and wanted to hear what he had to say. I don't think he would have certainly tried to kill him. This is just could be a waste of time. He could probably explain it in about 4 seconds.
Else can have. This is the exclusive elite club, right? This is the rich boys club of the Quraysh, right? So his close friend is Ikrimah. And so he wants to test the waters. What would happen if I wanted to convert? So he goes to Ikrimah and he says, don't that something is right with the message of Islam, with the Prophet ﷺ? That's why he's so successful. Don't you think that his message resonates with the truth? Ikrimah, the son of Abu Jahl, could not believe what he's hearing. Would you convert after all that we've done? Would you convert to his religion after all the wars that we fought? So Khalid kept his peace, didn't say anything more. But Ikrimah, the alarm bells go running off. He runs over to Abu Sufyan, who is by now the de facto leader of Mecca. He runs over to Abu Sufyan and he says, I believe that the son of Waleed might be converting. Khalid, this is the great warrior, might be converting. Abu Sufyan calls him and he begins rebuking him. How dare you do this? How could you do this? And Khalid does not respond. He doesn't defend himself. So it's clear that he's thinking of converting. Abu Sufyan, in desperation, pulls his sword out, meaning, I'm going to kill you. I cannot allow you to convert to Islam. This is just too much of a disaster for me. And at this point in time, Ikrimah shifts his loyalties. And he says, would you kill him for this? I mean, would you kill him? Sure, we don't agree, but you're going to kill him because he wants to change his religion? Khalid saw the situation was so tense. That same night he did not sleep in his house, and he took his horse, he took his weaponry, and he rode out in the middle of the desert to run away from Mecca and to flee to Medina to accept Islam. And
I'm going to pause it right there. Leave it on a cliffhanger because we don't know what's going to happen. My guess, on his way there, he's going to stumble across a winning lottery ticket and run into his brother and then him and his brother are gonna turn the lottery ticket in, get a ton of money, and then they're gonna move to France and build boats. I'm calling it now. I'm positive. There would be a cool movie made about his life. Not Khalid. I mean this guy right here. What? I want that man's life story. It'd be a pretty cool movie though to make with about Khalid. I'm just trying to think, like, just him standing there with the sword and he's kind of looking over his shoulder, and you just see a bunch of broken swords all over the ground. He's just bashing heads. All right, so I'm going to end this here. This is part 2. This is part 2. There's a thanks button. You can donate to the channel. Anything is appreciated. If not, hey, no harm, no foul. Like and subscribe. That truly helps. That's free. So if you could do that, that would be amazing. And until next time, have a good day, have a good night. Am I hitting the right button? And yes, I am. Okay. Bye-bye.